Welcome, dear brothers and sisters. We are just completing the first week in Advent and going into the second week of Advent. And I hope that you're not too busy preparing other things, but rather giving close attention to your spiritual preparation for Advent and the coming of the great feast of Christmas. Now, the second Sunday of Advent, in the Gospel today, the people come and ask John the Baptist who he is. And he says, "No, I'm not the prophet, I'm not the Messiah, I'm not the light of the world, but I'm a voice crying out in the wilderness. I'm a voice." So this Sunday and the second week of Advent, I'd like you and all of us to meditate on the voice in the wilderness. Whose voice are you and I listening to? Whose voice is coming loud and clear into our lives? And as we enter into the second week of Advent, we have to do three things. First and foremost, we look back and we see. And the second thing we do is look ahead and we wait. And the third thing is we look now at today and we listen. So whose voice am I listening to? So the question is listening. So our meditation is all about listening. And when we look back and see, we see that God is active. God was a faithful God. God was a God of promise. And he prepared his people all through salvation history, and he prepared them to receive the Messiah, to receive the Savior. And the main person who speaks about the coming Messiah is the prophet of Advent, Isaiah the prophet. And here, through Isaiah, even though Isaiah may not have known many things, but he did speak about the coming Messiah, that God is promising a Redeemer. What shape, when, how, and where, all that is going to take place, all those promises are going to be fulfilled, he didn't know. He was actually the mouthpiece of God. And we know, when we look back, we see that God is a faithful God, God who has promised a Redeemer and in Jesus, and God has fulfilled that promise. And who is that promise? Jesus, his Son. In Jesus, we see that God shares our humanity. God becomes one with us in Jesus. God shares our shattered dreams in Jesus when he became one with us. And Jesus shares our temptation, shares our weaknesses. He shared our humanity. And that is a great fulfillment of God. You see how God has condescended to become one with us. And he knows in Jesus what it means to be human. And he knows and understands the phenomenon of being a human being. And Jesus, in order to fulfill God's promise, has laid down his life for you and for me. Why did Jesus lay down his life for you and for me? So that he might bring us back to God the Father. Bring us back and restore to us our righteousness that belonged to us when God created us. And Jesus is our righteousness. Jesus gives us his righteousness and restores us to the righteousness of God. He restores us to our relationship with God our Father as his children through his passion, through his death, through his resurrection. And Jesus not only does that, but he also pours out abundantly his Spirit upon us so that we can cry out, "Abba, Father," and become truly his children. So then, when we look back, we see the mighty deeds of God, who loved us and did not count the cost to be one with us and save us. And now, as we go through the second week of Advent, we need to look back and see what God has done for us. The second part of our meditation for this second week of Advent is to look ahead. When we can look ahead, what do we see? We look ahead and we wait. As we looked in the first part, we looked behind, we looked back, and we saw. And now we look ahead and we wait. And we wait for whom? We wait for Christ to come in his glory. He comes now as a king. As he came in his first coming as the Prince of Peace, born as a little helpless babe. Now we are looking forward to him coming as our king. He comes as the Lion of Judah. He comes as the triumphant king and the triumphant Lord. He comes as the Lord of victory to share his victory with all of us. And he comes also as a judge to give each one of us our reward, to come back and take what he has given us. He has given us his gift of time. He's given us his gift of love. He's given us his gifts. And now he's coming to see what we have done with all these beautiful gifts that he gives us. He comes to take what he has given us in love and to take back with him all of us into eternity. This is our response, namely to wait upon him because he will come again. And this is what we are going to look at more deeply in this second week of Advent. Remember, in the creed that we pray, this is what we say: he will come again in glory to judge the living and the dead, and his kingdom will have no end. How beautiful! He will come again in glory to judge the living and the dead, and there shall be no end to his kingdom. Again, when the priest says in the Eucharist, in the Eucharistic acclamation, he says, the mystery of faith. And what is our response? We say, we proclaim your death, O Lord, and profess your resurrection until you come again. So we are looking ahead and we wait because he is coming to receive us. The third part of our meditation is to look at today. In the first part, we looked behind, we looked back, and we saw what God did. In the second part of our meditation, we looked ahead and see how Christ is going to come to us. And now, in the third part of our meditation, we are going to look at today. And today, we need to listen to how Christ is coming. And between his first coming and his second coming, he comes to us today. And we are most privileged to see him come to us today and every day. To be aware of his coming every day, we need to receive his grace. We need to receive his strength. And we need to receive his call to conversion. And my response to his grace, to his strength, to his call of conversion is to listen. And to listen deeply, profoundly, and intently. Listen to the choices that I have to make today. And I make a lot of choices every day. Listen to my relationships that I live every day. I live in my relationships. In fact, I'm a bundle of relationships, and I need to listen to those relationships. Listen to my actions that underscore my life of faith, my life of action, my life of relationship. And in this, we are so many things to so many different people. For example, you're a father, you're a mother, you're a single person, you're a child, you're a parent, you're a grandparent, whoever you are, you need to listen to your actions and listen to the actions that underscore your life. Again, listen to the needs of people around you. What are the needs of people around you that you and I are responding to? Listen to the responses that the world is making and how it captures us and how it invites me to live its own philosophy and to make my response there to that type of world I'm living in. Listen to the hungry, listen to the needy, listen to the poor people, all those around me. Listen to those who are imprisoned in their own feelings. When we can listen, then that is how Christ is going to come to us today, here and now. Listen to the yearning of your heart. When we can give ourselves some time and listen to, what is my heart yearning for? Who is my heart yearning for? And when I can listen to that yearning, then I'm listening to Christ. Listen to my own successes, why I succeed in my life. Listen to my own failures, what makes me a failure in life, what sets me back and what sends me, depressed. So listen to what is happening in your heart. Listen to my responses in my speaking to Him in my daily prayer. And when I can listen to my responses to Him in my daily prayer, then I am really profoundly aware of His actions taking place in my life. And now in the Gospel for the second week of Advent, we are told that John the Baptist said of himself that he is a voice crying out in the wilderness. And today we need to ask ourselves, who is the John the Baptist that I'm listening to today, here and now in my life? So as we proceed into the second week of Advent, I'd like to suggest to you, and you can make the choice, I'd like to suggest to you a few actions that you can take, and few suggestions that you can take into the second week of Advent. Number one, in the midst of your busy and overwhelming life that you live and everybody lives, we're also stressed out, especially this beautiful season. Set aside a little time. Don't fail to set aside a little time to listen to your own heart. Whatever you may think, set aside a little time to listen to your own heartbeat. And what is your heart telling you? What is your heart saying to you? What is your heart trying to tell you? And in this way, we listen to the voice of John the Baptist. Secondly, go further. Spend some time to listen to the spiritual call of Advent, to prepare a way for the Lord. Don't be afraid of what you see inside yourself. Don't be afraid of what you see inside yourself. There is something beautiful that you see, and there's something ugly that you see. So take hold of what is beautiful, enjoy it, perfect it. And what is ugly, get hold of it and face the truth so that you can make a choice to change. Thirdly, make a choice and do up a list which needs to be changed in your life. What are the things that need to be changed in your life? And when you can listen deeply to those desires that need to be changed in your life, you are going to enjoy the great joy of life in you. The joy of Jesus then can come and inebriate you and fill you with the new zest of life. And that is what the Prince of Peace wants to do for each one of us when he is born. The fourth, allow yourself to listen to your own inner voice crying out to you, crying out for change, crying out for love, crying out for forgiveness, crying out for affection, crying out for generosity, crying out for prayer. Sometimes we feel when we are sensitive, our body is crying out for prayer, but we are so busy in our life that we sort of silence that voice. And crying out for reconciliation. And here's a beautiful suggestion that we can make our reconciliation and receive the joy, the peace, and the forgiveness of Christ in our daily life. And ultimately, to receive Christ in Christmas. And when we can receive Christ in Christmas, then truly our lives are filled to the brim. So let the second week of Advent be a week of listening. Listen with your mind. Listen with your heart. Listen with your ears. Listen with your eyes. And above all, listen with your whole being, focused and profound. So my suggestion to you is to listen, listen, listen. Changes happen when we listen. And that is what you and I want in our lives. That is what the Lord wants in our lives, when we can listen to the voice of John the Baptist crying out in the wilderness. Listening is a positive act, and you have to put yourself out to do it, and do it profoundly, faithfully, and joyfully. So this second week of Advent, listen, listen, listen.